We are live. We are live here with Joe Knows Brains. I'm Jenny Q. I'm your host, and I am joined by Joe Lamb, attorney at law. Hi, Joe. It's so exciting to be here with you on your very first Facebook Live.
Hey, Jenny, it's fantastic to be here and get to talk about brains and be here with you. Have a great time.
Well, Joe Knows Brains. We're going to talk about that.
We'll see.
What?
I said we'll see.
Well, we've had some conversations, so I know you know, and we're going to talk about 3 myths about brain injuries. And I'm especially interested in this from a personal standpoint. In 1999, I was in a rollover where I had a closed head injury and I lost consciousness. So I can't wait to learn what you have to share with us. So why don't we just jump right in with the first myth, which already has captured my attention. Myth number 1, you can only get a concussion from a direct impact to the head. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely, Jenny. And your example is a really fantastic, well, it's not fantastic, but it's a very common example that we see here at in our practice with brain injuries. Closed head injuries can occur in a variety of ways, not just a blunt impact to the head, but quite often with any kind of injury with a what's known as a whiplash effect, where your head's kicked forward and then thrown back. In fact, a concussion, really, many people misunderstand this to think that the concussion is caused when I'm hitting the head or I fall from my bike and my head hits the ground, or the very common example being football injuries. But in reality, a concussion's occurred anytime the brain's essentially sloshed around inside the skull. Because what's going on with our brains is, think of your brain kind of like a pickle in a jar. And if you shake that pickle around, it's going to hit all the edges of the jar. That's really similar to what's going on with your brain inside of your skull. Anything that's going to cause your head to go forward quickly, back quickly, and any kind of blunt impact is going to cause the brain to quickly move inside of that jar, which is the skull, and hit the edges. It's that movement that stretches the neurons, which are the brain cells, and causes injury, which is what many people call a concussion or other type of brain injury.
I'm not going to lie, when you were using the description of your brain being a pickle in a jar, it was like a little bit like, it was really good because it was it gave me something to visualize, and it was also a little bit like my brain is like it was kind of gross. I'm just gonna say it.
Some people's brains are more pickled than others. That's all I'll say about it.
Hey, that's fair enough. I'm gonna assume mine is not, just because that
Absolutely
makes me
not.
feel better. Okay, all right, that's good. So that's interesting, because I do think that we assume that a concussion can only come from that specific blunt force, right? And so that was really, really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
People really think it's the blunt force itself that causes the injury, but in reality, it's kind of like tearing a muscle in your leg. It's you hurt the muscle initially, and then your body has what's known as an inflammatory response. It sends a bunch of blood to the area, or the cells respond accordingly, and that's where a lot of the injury comes from.
Okay, another great metaphor on that. That's so good. Okay, all right, we're gonna jump on to number 2 over here. You can't get a concussion while wearing a helmet. See, I would have thought this was true, but you're saying nope, it's a myth.
Well, absolutely. And it's one of the biggest myths that, at least in my practice, I see insurance adjusters try to claim, oh, well, this individual on a bicycle fell, but they were wearing their helmet. Isn't that helmet designed to prevent a concussion? Well, I would say that almost any fan of football is very much aware that over the years, we've come to realize that not only do helmets not prevent concussions, but they can actually contribute to concussions. And I don't mean that helmets make it more likely to get concussion. But at least in football or cycling, it's very common for people to have a false sense of security of, oh, well, my head is protected. There's something over my skull. I'm going to be just fine. But in reality, as I mentioned earlier, it's about the brain moving within the skull, not so much any impact to your head itself. So in reality, like a football helmet or a bicycling helmet or a motorcycle helmet, those are really to keep you from scratching and injuring like the superficial part of your face. It doesn't do all that much for concussions. Thankfully, modern technology, both in football helmets and bicycle helmets and motorcycle helmets, it's kind of being developed with that in mind, and it's starting to reduce the risk of a concussion. There's no helmet out there of any kind that's going to completely eliminate the risk of concussion, but any helmet that, kind of like when a car the bumper crunches in to lower the force of someone in an accident. Same thing with these helmets. They're being designed to crumple, so that way it reduces the acceleration, deceleration of the brain, and ultimately reduces injuries. But nothing can ever prevent them.
Yeah, this is good. So what my takeaway from that is you still have to be careful. You can't just go willy-nilly riding your bike when you have the high end best technology helmet.
Absolutely. And another thing is, just because you get that nice MIPS bicycle helmet or the best motorcycle SI helmet you can buy, doesn't mean that you've completely eliminated the risk. So if you're in a bicycle accident or a motorcycle accident, it's still smart to get checked out medically for a TBI. Or sorry, for a concussion, which is a type of TBI, which is a traumatic brain.
But that was like kind of a mic drop aha moment for me, because you may think, oh, all I did was I fell and I have a helmet and I don't have any lacerations anywhere, so I'm good. But you're saying no, probably go get checked out.
Absolutely. And that's going to lead into the next topic we're going to talk about.
Let's go. Myth 3. You have to lose. Oh, the myth is, the myth is people think that you have to lose consciousness to suffer a concussion. And again, you're saying not true.
Absolutely not true. In fact, this is probably one of the most dangerous and prevalent myths out there in terms of concussions and brain injuries. Many people will talk about the idea of, well, you just had your bell rung. You were just dazed and confused. Well, dazed and confused are hallmark symptoms of having suffered a concussion. In fact, there's 3 different levels of concussions from grade 1 to grade 3. And in only grade 3 does an individual actually have to lose consciousness temporarily. So the best way to explain this is if you ever do lose consciousness, you certainly need to get investigated for a brain injury. And if you didn't lose consciousness, but whatever accident you had, be it car, motorcycle, bicycle, whether you got punched in the head for whatever reason, any type of these injuries, they're very serious. And the medical literature coming out these days is really showing that it's something that you want to get seen for early, and that by taking the right steps early on, you can really mitigate any risk that you're going to have of suffering long-term damage. And that means whether you suffered, whether you lost consciousness, whether you got knocked out or not, it's something you need to take very seriously.
Awesome. Very good. Before we wrap this up, we do have a question from a live viewer. Cassie says, so a traumatic brain injury is a concussion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those, every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. So a concussion is actually one type of a traumatic brain injury. It's known as a mild traumatic brain injury. But all mild means is that, so I mentioned the 3 different grades of concussions. Above a grade 3 concussion is a grade 2 brain injury. And a grade 2 brain injury is pretty close to a stroke level brain injury, with a grade 3 brain injury involving loss of consciousness, I believe, over an hour. So grade 3 brain injuries are very, very seriously. But all of these are considered TBIs, or traumatic brain injuries, which is one main focus of our law practice.
And so my next question is, when does somebody call your firm in order to know because I wouldn't know. So here's the thing. When I had my closed head injury, I remember being dazed and confused for weeks, not for hours, for weeks, right? And it would have been really great to have somebody who could advocate for me. But so how do people know when, oh, maybe I should call? Because I think some people don't want to bug attorneys, right? If there's not anything in it for them at some point, right?
Absolutely. And there's 2 parts to answer this. The first is that at Jim Dodson Law, we ask everyone to call us, even after an accident. You're confused. You don't deal with insurance companies all day, every day. I do. Feel free to reach out. You'll never write us a check. You'll never pay any money out of your pocket. Everything we get would be part of what we recover for you. And I would say, out of every 5 calls, 3 of them, I'm just giving people advice, just helping them out, giving them peace of mind, because I'm happy to share the knowledge with the community. Jim and I are both big believers in givers get, and the more we put out, the more we receive. And it's just nice to help people. The other part is very similar to what the description you just brought up about your accident. So often people come to us with brain injuries they don't even recognize. And a big part of what we do with all of our clients is have them fill out a brain injury checklist. And you'd be shocked at the number of people who say, I'm absolutely fine, and go on to find out they're suffering memory loss, emotional issues, they've got irritability, they're a very changed person, and they don't even notice. And it
Oh my
could be
God.
an injury very similar to the one you suffered. I have
Yeah.
clients who have rollover accidents and then begin seeing changes in themselves. But the nice part is if anyone who works with us, anyone who works with the doctors that we work with, we have some of the best experts around the country in brain injuries, not only in terms of diagnosing them, but in the limited treatment that we can do. Because unfortunately, treatment's still in the early stages, but we've made massive, massive progress towards these doctors. I've seen the doctors that we work with do some really amazing things.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because it wasn't like, because I was taken, like Jaws of Life, and, cut me out, and neck
Mhm.
board, back
Oh my
brace, and
God.
PR,
Yeah.
and, all of every single test they could possibly run. And it all came up clear, and I was discharged, and I thought I was okay. And it wasn't until months later that I realized it's just exactly what you just said. I wasn't myself. Like,
Mhm.
one of the things that surprised me the most is that it physiologically, it can lower your self-esteem, and that's something
Absolutely.
that we don't know, because we don't know, we don't do this all the time. Okay, so
Mhm.
I love what you said. You also have something else to offer people. It's a layman's guide to brain injuries, and I love this. They can download it. We have the link up there on the screen. It's also in the description. It's a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/TBI guide. And so you can go there and grab it, just for your own information, just to have on the ready if you ever need it. So, Joe, yes, I was just going to ask you, what do you have to wrap this up? What would you say to somebody who's just listening to this?
Absolutely. First of all, really love that we're bringing up the guide. It's a fantastic guide. It's written in a way that any folk can understand, whether you've studied all the scientific literature under the sun or whether it's your first time even hearing about a concussion. The book is written so that it's so easy to understand and that people can have a better understanding, whether you think you've suffered a brain injury or just curious, like I am, learning more about the material. And just to wrap things up, you mentioned that you had problems with the imaging after yours. So for a fourth myth busting, a free fourth bonus myth busting is the imaging is often misleading when it comes to a brain injury, because
Ooh.
while so often people consider MRIs and X-rays to be purely objective forms of evidence, they can really miss brain injuries in almost 8 out of 10 situations.
Fascinating. Yep, I guess that would have been true in mine. They even did a CT scan. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
The CT scans especially.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Joe, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise. If anybody wants to reach out to you directly, what is the best way to do that?
Best way to reach me is call our office, 727. I have an assistant today, 727-446-0840. And it looks like I got to run. Jenny, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Everybody,
You
go ahead and download the TBI guide, the layman's guide to brain injuries. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.